It was better than Lego. It was better than Lego. It was better than Lego.
Hello and welcome to this week's Better Than Lego. With me this week is just myself and Geoff. Good evening, Geoff.
Good evening.
All right, we'll just run through the results of the weekend, starting with one of our games of the round, which was the Titans against the Storm. Both Harry Grant and Ryan Pappenhausen played the full 80 minutes, 125 metres and topping the title count. With 45 for Grant, Pappenhausen 181 metres, and also first double for Preston Campbell's kid, Jaden Campbell, who we thought played pretty well. Geoff, not really an unexpected result. Melbourne continue with the record-breaking run. Any thoughts on the game, how you saw it?
Well, I thought it was... they've been pushing really to try and get Pappenhausen back into the side, and
yeah,
you can make an argument and say that well, really, his form doesn't really warrant it. They've had success with the players there, but the simple fact of the matter is he's the guy that they're going to move with going forward. They've got to get him back in at some point, at fullback, get him going. His replacement's leaving anyway, and well, look, it really kind of worked out for him in the end. I didn't expect the Titans to do much because that's where the good teams get sorted out from the bad ones. On edge defense, the good sides can rip you apart down there, and whilst the Titans can, they can play good football, they can rack up a lot of points. They just can't stop people from going over at will.
Yeah, and that set us up for a couple of good games on the Friday. The Raiders against Manly, which was a good one. The Raiders surprisingly jumping out to a 12-point half-time lead, but then three tries in a quarter of an hour pretty much changed the game. Sully in the centres, who I believe isn't tied up in contract-wise, had a barnstorming game, and as did Ruben Garrick, filling in for Tommy Turbo, 200 metres. 11 tackle busts from Sully in the centre, and I think we both thought he was brilliant. It's also the 7th time this season that the Raiders have lost the lead, having led by double digits. Again, Geoff, great performance from Manly.
Well, that's important, isn't it? Because the thing about Tommy is that he's a class player. He's arguably, well, I think his home and home is really going to win the Player of the Year, really, isn't it? You'd have to say there's only a couple of other guys who really could challenge him for that. But the thing about him is he does get nicked up. He gets dinged up, and chances are they could miss it. If they're going to make a run, they could lose him 1-2 games. They've got to be able to win without him. That's what they did. That's what the Raiders.
Good win though, wasn't it, really, Manly, when we consider that the Raiders are the kind of team without Tommy that they could probably slip up, really, and I thought they did very well.
Yeah. But look, like I said, the Raiders are not the Raiders what the Raiders were 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
They just don't have that. Look, if we were talking about the Raiders of 3 years ago, I think they'd have been home and homes by half time. I don't think Manly would have been able to get back in the game. But they only have so many points in them, and if they can't stretch the lead, get away, then they were always a chance of getting back into it. So. Yeah.
Okay, and then the other big game of the weekend, which was Panthers against Souths. Again, Panthers coming back from 12-0 down. The Souths started with 60% possession in the first half hour. Really, it was a kind of game of two halves. Really, I thought Nathan Cleary kind of took over the game in the second half with what can only be classed as an exceptional kicking performance, really forced Souths onto the back foot. And one of the things that we've kind of highlighted on the NRL 360 is that Souths don't necessarily have the pack that can get them out of those sort of holes when they're getting pinned back.
Yeah, I think this is the thing about the Rabbitohs. They have they've got a lot of scoring power. They've got a lot of class players going forward. But you look at that pack and you have to say that, who out of that pack really is going to on that Pakistan again in let's say Melbourne's pack. I can think maybe one or two players, got they can maybe compete for the starting position, but it's a workmanlike pack, but it's not. The defense, it's not. Even you couldn't say
Still
it
for
has
speed, really, isn't it? A bit more.
Yeah. The hook is a class player, but unless they can get a roll on with guys like Burgess, in which case they can blow you away, then it can be a bit of a millstone around the neck, really. Definitely, yeah. That is their weak point, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was overall. I thought it was a very good performance, more like the Penrith that we kind of seen earlier in the season when they were putting the wins together and they're starting to get the bodies back. To'o will be back in a couple of weeks. Fish Harris is back this week, as well as Prop. Very good win for Panthers. I believe it's the 5th consecutive defeat at the hands of Penrith South. And another interesting stats I picked up today, which is, I believe they are 0-11 in the last 11 games combined against Penrith and Melbourne. Not really good going forward, considering those are the the top two that they're going to have to beat one of them probably.
Yeah. Well, it's just such a start. It's like I said, it's for some reason it's not just a rabbit hole thing. It's a Wayne Bennett thing. Wherever Wayne Bennett's kind of been, ever since he had a lot of success a long time ago, but since then this has kind of been a recurring nightmare for him. Really, is to play well in the guts of the season and then just completely blow apart. Towards the back end of the year. This happens so many times. You'd have to wonder, when some teams going to start factoring that in.
Well, I mean, it's a better performance than shipping 50 as they did earlier in the season against both Melbourne and Penrith in it. So it's not. A couple of key stats as well: 40% bomb defusal, kick defusal rate for Souths, 11-2 penalty count in favour of Penrith, and 88%. I think was it 74% completion rate. So no real surprise that Penrith won, but good to see him getting back in form because I think we need some. We need a tough challenger to Melbourne, don't we? And at the moment, there really isn't anybody. We keep talking about Manly as possibly doing it, but that's kind of being a bit more hopeful in it, and that it is really a pattern of play. Okay, we'll go on to quickly onto the remaining games. First of all, the Tigers, our favourites, the Tigers, who kind of collapsed and were out of it by the hour mark against Cronulla. I will mention this one because it was one of those ones. I do enjoy the games that have been taken out. We saw the game at Redcliffe last week with the balcony outside the clubhouse, which is great. And they went to Rockhampton this week, where I believe some of the tickets in the grandstand were exchanging for as much as $125. So people were keen to watch that. Great performance again, Will Kennedy, the guy who plays fullback for Cronulla. He's been great this season. I suppose that'll mean Nico Hines plays at standoff. West still hanging on. Bulldogs against the Knights, 80%, 84% completion rate. So it's a big game from Clemmer, who racked over 220 metres for the Knights in the place of Saifiti. Jake Clifford again, 171 metres for Will Hopoate Saints. Fans may be keen to know. Luke Thompson was the only Bulldogs forward to top 100 metres, reaching 158, 28 tackles. But again, Newcastle just doing enough at the moment to keep the results coming in.
Yeah, well, they have they're the side with the class players, really. It's not that the Bulldogs have got some talent, but if you're looking at guys like, look, they've done a lot better since they got the big centre back, really. Best, he's not just a big guy. He's a big player. He tends to turn up when at pressure times. And I know he's had a couple of brain explosions in the last 12 months or so, but he's one of those guys that always seems to flash, doesn't he? It's having guys like it. Yeah, the thing is, the Bulldogs they just don't really have well, certainly not in that game. They didn't really have an awful lot of cutting. They had a lot of huff and puff, but yeah, they need to get into next season, really, don't they? Because this season is just a bit of a nightmare.
I did see Phil Gould tweet today that Trent Barrett is still the man for him, but I think we have to point out that it is before the end of the season. It's not the off season. And things can change in a tweet in a couple of weeks. Interesting fact: the Bulldogs ran up 2,000 meters, which is over 700 more than the Bulldogs, and I think that seems to be the sort of pattern that's led to these 4 wins, which is capitalising on the work of the forwards really, without necessarily flashing. The strike power that they've got, although it is slightly limited in the back line. Okay, first win in 5 for Parramatta. 3 tries for Mitchell Moses. Perfect, exactly what they needed, that one, isn't it? And the Dragons against the Roosters. Both the Sunday games I thought were belters. Dragons and Roosters. Again, the Dragons, I thought they did great. The first half really took the game to the Roosters, but I think the kind of class just told, and of course Sam Walker, when he came on in the second half, kind of turned the game a little bit as well.
Yeah. Well, they scored a couple of superb tries, didn't they?
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
And yeah, they do have some. They do have some scoring power in them, but they're also. Again, this is another side where I think they're just trying to get over the hump towards the end of the season. Let's just get out of this season. We've got a lot of changes coming in next. Let's just make sure that we don't embarrass ourselves, which they didn't. They gave a credible performance, but
and it's good to see. I thought good to see that despite I suppose the St George players are probably. There's still probably a bit of turmoil languishing for the barbecue. Maybe they've sorted it out between them, but they're still they're not out of it, but they are on the peripheral of it. But I thought it was great to see some of the performances, some of the players like Lomax, excuse me.
Yeah.
Had a great performance. And I think also as well, the young kid Sullivan, who's been filling in at hooker, I think he's given them a little bit of zip that they were kind of missing as the standoff. I can't remember the guy's name. He had a great performance as well. But I suppose the one thing we can't really move on without talking about James Tedesco. So no matter what Tommy Turbo does, again, I think he was close to 220, 250 metres. 3 line breaks, 4 try assists, and 12 tackle busts. I mean, one of the things that they were talking about on the shows this week is that he does seem to have added to his game, and I will agree with him that his pass selections and his passing in the fullback role this season has been great. I mean, he's been passing as good as a standoff. Of course, he's only passed out on the wings, but still, I think he has developed that side of his game this year. It's a lot better than what he used to be. He's like as good as what Darius Boyd used to be, I think.
Yeah, well, I think, look, if you look at him today and comparing to what he was like when he was all the way back at West, when he was young, they don't even look like the same player. And he was a good young player at the time, and everybody thought he was a talented. He was clearly a talented guy. That was the reason he got his contract over there anyway. But look, that's what the best players do. The best players don't just settle at a plateau. They try to improve in increments and usually in areas where they're not strong. And I think that's where Tedesco has really kicked on, because he's kind of knocked off the corners on some of the rough edges of his game. Really improved a lot.
Okay, and then the last game, which went down to the wire, the Broncos, as I said, they did give the Warriors a test and ended up beating them. Not much to say from that other than the disappointing conversion rates really from Reece Walsh, 1 from 5, which really cost them the game. Anthony Milford, great result, but that's something that Walsh is going to have to learn from, isn't he? He's got to improve his kicking.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not even sure that he is a kicker. Look, don't get me wrong, he's clearly a kicker. He's clearly been charged with kicking duties in the past. But looking at it, I'm not sure that he would be my number 1 kicker anyway. Really,
no, his conversion rate was poor.
Yeah, look, definitely the Milford story was kind of really the only thing to take from that match, because look, everybody likes a redemption story, and the kid's been slated in in the media, and you could say he deserves some of that, but also he's took a lot of abuse that perhaps he shouldn't have done anyway, because a lot of other people are responsible at that club for the mess that they're in. And it was just nice to see him turn it around, show some form. He was clearly the best player. I thought he was the best player for them.
Okay, just before we go to we look at this week's games. Just a few player movements. Shane Wright, who's moving, I think, from the Cowboys. I think it was, from the Cowboys to Salford. Obviously, Steve Price returning back to Cronulla, where he was assistant when they won their only premiership. I believe Albert Kelly's extended for a year as well. Bulldogs are sniffing around Clemmer. I think that's a good move for them. And Cronulla and Canberra interested in Luke Brooks, although I believe Ash Taylor has been passed over for one of the roles, because I believe he's on his way out at Gold Coast, where he's not selected this weekend. Okay, then on to the final two rounds we've got now. Again, the top three places have kind of sorted. Perhaps maybe there's still time for a little bit of jostling, but maybe swapping around. But I think it's looking like it's going to be Melbourne, Penrith, and the Roosters in the top three. Still a bit of a three-way running with the Roosters, Manly and Parramatta for the fourth and fifth spot. Roosters looking slight favourites for that one. I think Parramatta, they've got the Panthers and the Storm, I think it is, to finish. So I think we can forget about them. So it's really going to be a straight up between the Roosters and Manly for the fifth spot. Okay, so on to tomorrow's game. We'll start with we picked our game of the round, our two games of the round. We're not picking the Roosters and the Rabbits, despite the big rivalry, because there isn't as much on riding on that one. First one up, which is the Knights, who are in seventh against the Titans, 24 points to 20 in terms of points on the table. Clement likely out, so there's 200 metres gone there. Tyson Frizzell set to return for suspension. Fotuaika's back for the Titans. Also, Kevin Proctor looks like he's going to be starting. Just on the thing with the issue we mentioned with last week, Geoff, which was that Connor Watson, who'd taken a minimum wage, taken a pay cut to go and play at the Roosters, who was supposed to be Ponga's friends. Ponga's come out and said that he expects to stay at Newcastle and he wants to win a premiership. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think he's just being a little bit diplomatic there, really, because look, everybody knows that if he goes up to the Queensland club, he can easily walk away with $1 million plus up in Brisbane. They're taking because they need to play like that. Those type of players, they just aren't about. Is he going to win anything in Newcastle? I'm not too sure about that. I think really.
Well, he said he wants to win on he wants to bring it to Newcastle, mate. Specifically,
well, everybody knows
Newcastle. So
yeah. Well, yeah. I'm sure he's lots of other things here, isn't it?
Well, it's something. While we're talking about Ponga, the Knights are 3-0. Whilst when Ponga and Pearce have played together this season, and they're set to start again. As I said, Ash Taylor's been dropped out. Tyrone Peachy's coming in. Standoff. Jamal Fogarty retains his place at scrum half. Fifita dropped again down to the bench. One of the things it looked at was that up until round 20 in terms of fantasy league points, I'm not a fantasy league player, but Fifita's been averaging 73 points per round. And in the last four, he scored, up and since round 20, he scored 43, 69, 26, and 30 points in the 4 rounds since. So I think I understand the reasoning behind what's his name, Justin Oldbuck, dropping him to the bench. Makes sense to me. Who do you see winning in this one, Geoff? It is a tough. Newcastle have got solid pack, good spine, but so the Titans.
Yeah, for me, look, I've seen not often, but I have seen Newcastle turn in some pretty strong defensive displays. The Titans, they just leak too many points. They just leak way too many points. That's the scary thing for me. And you don't even have to be that good of a side to be able to put 30 or 40 points on them. Look, they have the Titans play a better brand of football, and they can get 2, 3, 4 tries. This is the problem that you've got though. Any side that's playing the Titans knows doesn't matter if you could be 3, 4 scores down, and you could still be telling your mates, listen, we're still in this game. We're still in this game. No other club. You couldn't go to any other club, maybe with the exception of maybe Canberra, that have cocked up a few points and say, listen, you can be four converted tries down and still be in the game. So even though I would say Newcastle don't play great football for me, but I think they're the more balanced side, really. I think they'll get
okay, that's interesting. I mean, I do wonder about that, because one of the things that they've talked about recently is that Anthony Seibold had come in to working with Newcastle, and there was alarm expressed about that, because I think the comments were that when he was at Brisbane, he started introducing sorts of algebraic equations to the players, and he kind of lost the sort of interest or the concentration. That led to part of one of the reasons why he left there, and there was concern about him doing one-to-one work at Newcastle. But they have said that he's been doing one-to-one work, but they've also said he's been working on the defensive front, and there has been a note that there was an interview with, I can't remember who was the player they were interviewing the other day. Doesn't matter if they're interviewing one of the Newcastle players, and saying that, I think it was Kurt Mann actually, saying that they've been working on the defence, and since Seibold's gone on it, the results have improved, and they have tightened up the defence. So if they can keep Titans out, I'm kind of agree with you, but I do think the Titans have got a lot of firepower, and they've got a bit more firepower than Newcastle have had, and it does get 2 or 3 scores ahead. I don't know. It's going to be a tricky one, that one. Okay, the next one, which is a game on Friday, which is our other second game of the round, which is the Warriors against the Raiders. We picked this one again because these two are hanging on, although they're a bit on the peripheral, the Warriors. The Raiders are very much in the hunt. Newcastle will secure a finals position if they beat the Titans. Raiders will put themselves in a very good position. Warriors have to win every one here. Warriors have had 7 losses by 6 points or less. That's telling. Yeah. That's unlucky, isn't it? Or is it just bad?
Well, and it's not bad, is it? Because look, if you're only losing by a small number of points, that tells that your team hasn't checked out, hasn't it? They may be getting beat, but they've never checked out. And that's something you can kind of hang your hat on, can't you? The thing about Canberra is there are certainly several games this season, I would say, that they've been beaten and their players are completely checked out. And not just that, they've made some. Again, every game with Canberra lately, it's kind of like 6 blunders versus 7 pieces of fantastic play. It's never one or the other. It's always you kind of like, it's like a sine wave going from like horrible to like ecstasy. Look,
and it should be a belting game. It has to be said. I mean, they're both in the hunt, and the Warriors certainly haven't given up on the finals yet. Excuse me.
No, well, the thing is, I think the Warriors really they've got a couple of good young players who are coming through. Look, it would have been better if they had Truvas Shek still there. You really need this time of year. You really need kind of like guys, your class players to do the job. But the thing is, I think I fancy him actually, which is strange because I don't think I fancied him all season.
No, well, I think I'm pleased to see that Sean O'Sullivan's come back in, although it is because Harris Tavise is injured, and he is accompanying Chad Townsend, who gets the start. Frawley is in replaces Sam Williams for Canberra. I believe Soliola's back in the running. Cody Nikorima's back as well. I mean, we kind of like him. I know he doesn't seem to get the sort of press or the sort of praise that other players get, but I think he's a key part to their game. I fancy the Waterloo. Oh, I can't. You can't. It's hard to back them. Go on, fuck it. Let's go for Auckland. Excuse my language. Sorry. Okay, Roosters, who are 4th against the Rabbitohs. Big rivalry. Always an intense game, no matter where they are on the ladder. It didn't pick this one because it doesn't really have that much bearing. Adam Kieran's doubtful for the Roosters. Looks like Lachlan Lamb's going to get another run out in the centre. Damien Cook is penciled in, but he is carrying a quad injury. Egan Butcher gets the start ahead of, whilst his brother's out. Josh Mansour ruled out for the season, which after his horrific performance under the high ball last week may not necessarily be a bad thing. I mean, the Roosters have done very well. I'll tweet it later. The squad that they've got out, they posted on the NRA 360, the 17 that they had out, which would be comfortably a top 6 team over here, if not top 16. Can we see this one could go either way, really.
Well, I think that the coach really, for the Roosters, he's just got to say, well, look, guys, considering the injuries that we've had this season, the retirees, the bad luck that we've had, the fact that we're still in here at the end of the year and we've still got a shot, speaks volumes about the club, speaks volumes about the talent that they've got, and also the culture that they've got there. They've got players coming back at the right time. And like I said, this is traditionally the time where, the bunnies, anyway, Bennett coach side just blows, the gasket blows and the engine just stops all its water on the floor. So not like I said, it's not an important game, but I can still see the Roosters taking that one. So
yeah, I think it'll be a close one. That one. I do fancy the Rabbitohs, just with that extra firepower that they've got out wide. I think they'll push it a little bit more against the Roosters and take advantage of I fancy them to knock the 2 points off. Okay, then on to the other games on Saturday. Dragons against the Cowboys. Dragons in 12th again. They're still hanging on. Ravalawa is out. Cade Ellis doubtful for the Dragons. Tamalola set to come back, starting at prop. This is a must-win for the Dragons. There's no. I fancy that it'll be a tougher game than they think, but you would think the Dragons have got to win that one. Sharks against the Broncos. Again, Sharks starting to find a bit of consistency, starting to put some results or put some form together. They have to win. They're in 8th. They'll put themselves into the finals position in a strong position if they knock off the Broncos here.
Yeah.
Who were unchanged, by the way, the Broncos. Unchanged side. 2 weeks in a row, mate.
I think the thing is that the Broncos will be coming in with, they'll be coming in hot for this game now, especially after, because they've had a few tight losses. They've got, like I said, a settled squad. You can tell there's been a bit of belief that's been growing in that squad. Certainly, it's nothing like the Broncos have started the campaign. It's going to be a tough one, really. It's going to be a tough match for them. But wouldn't it be ironic if, just at the point where they're dumping Milford, it turns out his greatest performances for the club.
Yeah. Well,
the most Broncos thing.
That happens, don't we? The end of a contract, isn't it? Can happen. Okay, and then the major game on the Saturday night, which is first place Storm, looking to create a record for most consecutive wins. I think they've done a trailer recently, said that Glenn Campbell's Rhinestone Cowboy was number 1 last time this record was set. A 46-year-old record. Looks like Micah Seavor's out for the season, possible. I think it's ACL or MCL, one of the two. So unlikely to play. Blake Ferguson fit and ready in the running again. Could replace him. But bad news is for Parramatta is that Jerome Hughes and Brandon Smith are back and expected to start for the Storms. It's good that Parramatta won last week, but can they stop Melbourne?
No, I don't think so. I think Melbourne are gonna they're gonna lay the road with them. Really, they're gonna be like those old cartoons you used to see on Saturday mornings where the steamroller goes on there and then he picks up this kind of like wafer off the floor. And that's just going to be like that's going to be a Parramatta shirt. That's going to be, but still, the other thing though, the irony here is that it's kind of like a role reversal, isn't it? Because last season, you had Penrith who were kind of really in their position. Then everybody was kind of thinking that the Storm weren't going to do anything.
Yeah.
Well, the Storm are now,
yeah.
You know, they kind of sold themselves last year as being the underdogs, right? Well, you paint a big target on your back now. If you can't look, there's no point breaking the record and going 18, 19, 20 games and then losing the grand final, because no one's going to remember that. The people only going to remember is either win the grand final and the greatest season arguably in history, or certainly one of the greatest seasons in history.
Yeah.
But if they lose it, it's going to be one of the biggest busts of all time.
Well, good point. Yeah, very good point. That. Yeah, and I've never considered that, but I think you're right. The comparison with Penrith last year, because like I say, I think it was titles, champions elect almost, wasn't it, last year? And I think it's kind of looking that way. And I think it's helped with Penrith's drop in form, with Cleary's absence. I think that's not necessarily been a bad, although it's disrupted them. I think you're quite right. It's allowed them to be out of the spotlight for a little bit.
Yeah.
On to the Sunday games. Tommy Turbo's back for the Manly versus Canterbury again. No matter where the positions are on the table, Manly versus Canterbury, big rivalry, big contest. 2 points behind the Roosters now, Manly. So if Roosters do slip up against South, there's a chance that Manly could sneak above them with their superior points difference. News this week from Canterbury was the issue with Adam Elliott, who's being investigated by the NRL Integrity Unit, listening to, I believe he snuck a kiss with a New South Wales Women's Rugby League player in the toilets in a restaurant. And that's the particular issue, although he has been in trouble before and has been receiving alcohol counselling for 7 months. Whether that will happen, to quote Phil Good, I've got a quote from him here. As I explained to Adam today, incidents like this allow the media to bring up the past, and that could be hurtful to other people at that time as well. There have been a number of incidents in the last 12 or 18 months, obviously looking from the inside in. I now have access to greater information, and it allows them, as in the media, to regurgitate all that stuff, which exacerbates this situation here. But I don't know whether that means he's out. It does sound like it's a storm in the teacup situation. No more good news for the Bulldogs, who Luke Thompson, who came back and again proved to be the only Bulldog forward who could take the opposition on, but finds himself suspended again.
Well, I think we're going to have there's going to be a competition at the end of the year, the dumbest player of the year award, and right now it's between Victor Radley and Luke Thompson, really, because these two guys just see it's like an arms proliferation, dumb proliferation. That's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, the Thompson one was a bit. He crusher tackle possibly. He certainly wasn't intentional, and I certainly think that with some of the ones that have been, some players have been a bit unlucky. But I mean, that's for him to address. He knows that. But we can't see anything other than like I said, we can't see anything other than Manly win. But
Manly win.
Thompson's not playing; they've got no chance, have they?
Manly win. By big. Okay. Manly win big.
Okay, our final game of the round, which Panthers in second place against our adopted favourites, the West Tigers, who are in 13th. No Adam Dewey for West. I think that's the name of the coffin. They've still got a mathematical chance, but they would have to win both the remaining games, which is against the Panthers. I can't remember who they got. I think it's Broncos next week, or is that? I don't think that might be
no chance. No chance.
No chance. Yeah. I mean, Panthers. No. Fisher Harris is back at prop. And they'll be wanting to put some. Well, they might rest some players, but they'll be wanting to put some good performances in so that they're ready for next in 2 weeks' time. You'd think.
Well, look, Michael Maguire's been looking pretty depressed in that TV series that they've been running. By the time he gets to the end of this match, mate, he's going to look terminally depressed because it's going to have a hell of a lot to be. This is going to be a pasting. This one is definitely a pasting. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, that's not good news for West. Well, I mean, it is a reason. I say local derby. It is reasonable proximity between the two of them. So there might still be a chance that the players will raise themselves. Although without the local crowds, it's slightly different, isn't it? Okay, well, that's it for this week, folks. Next week is the final round, and then what we'll be doing the week after is we'll be looking at previewing the finals games, but also be reviewing our favourite players and moments of the year as we go into the playoffs. So it's thank you for me.
Thank you for me.
Cheers, everybody. Have a good weekend. Enjoy your rugby league.
Yep.
We do.
Goodbye.
You know.
Yep.
It was better than a leg out. It was better than a leg out. It was better than a leg out.